Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
It is 6:37 on the Morning Majority. This week we are, what is this, week number 3, number 4 on the big FM stick, 105.9 FM, AM 630 WMAL. Look, yesterday, 18 boxes piled into a sports utility vehicle at the White House, driven up to Capitol Hill, and in those 18 boxes were a number of free trade agreements. One with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama. The president has said for some time now that he wants to get these trade agreements going because it will ultimately help the economy. However, it was only yesterday that he finally sent them up. It does look as if, though, the skids have been greased in both the House and the Senate for quick consideration of these matters, and it does appear that they may well be passed. We want to get Grover Norquist on the line now to talk about this. Grover, what is your sense of these free trade agreements that are now pending? Will they indeed go through, and what are the concerns? What are the benefits?
Well, the three great agreements will go through. Congress will pass them. What's disappointing is that the administration says that these three trade agreements will increase jobs in the United States by 250,000 people this year when they're passed. For 3 years, Obama sat on these agreements. They haven't been improved or changed or anything. There's been no reason for the delay. There are 250,000 Americans who've been out of work for 3 years because the labor unions were unhappy and Obama was trying to work around their unhappiness.
Well, you say there's no reason. That exactly was the reason, wasn't it?
Well, it was a political reason. There was no good reason. There was no... and so here you have a president who's kowtowing to a very powerful interest group in the Democratic Party, and because he couldn't get up the courage to take them on, for 3 years, 250,000 Americans have been without work. And the number is probably higher, actually. That's the administration's number. Chamber of Commerce and other business groups point out that it's a higher number. Look, other countries are setting up free trade agreements right and left. In Europe, it's hurt the United States that we've been lagging on this. This is Obama's fault. And when he talks about a jobs plan, that's more jobs than his $800 billion stimulus created. Matter of fact, I'm not sure that actually net created any jobs, but this is something, more free trade. There are a lot of restrictions other countries have on our trade. We don't have as many restrictions on them. So when we go to free trade, we get actually a lot more benefits out of it because those tariffs and other restrictions on trade that get reduced. I don't want the Europeans to be the only people moving into the Korean and Colombian and Panama market. We ought to be doing that, and it's very, very unfortunate. If you ever thought the Obama administration was serious about its jobs message, this tells you that for 6 months they've been sitting on their backside and not helping to create jobs.
And in fact,
getting in the way.
In fact, this South Korean deal is perhaps the largest trade deal since NAFTA, and they say that in the first year, the United States will realize $10.9 billion.
Oh, absolutely. It's tremendously helpful to the American economy. It's something that should have happened a while ago. These things would have happened during the Bush years, except the Democrats in Congress were obstructing everything useful that the Bush administration was trying to pass because they wanted to be able to say that he wasn't doing anything. So from time to time you get Obama claiming that this Congress is partisan or because it won't give him his tax increases that he wants. But in point of fact, the last 2 years of the Bush administration, last 4 years, there was really a commitment by the Democrats to not let things like trade agreements through. So it goes beyond Obama stalling for the last 3 years. For the previous 2 years, it was the Democratic Congress that was killing jobs for political purposes. And I think that's very, very unfortunate. There are a lot of people whose lives were greatly damaged by this. But now let's get this done and stop Obama and the labor unions from killing jobs.
I'm confused, Grover, because I feel like the president was saying in Michigan on the trail a month ago, if only we could pass these 3 free trade bills that I am sitting on, then we could get jobs moving along. Was he not complaining that they weren't moving?
it's really interesting. It's like our friend Warren Buffett, who says, "I'd like to pay more in taxes," and you're going, "Well, what's holding you up, sir?
Right.
Write a check." They're like the guy in the bar who pretends he wants to beat the other guy up and pretends his friends are holding him back. "Oh boy, I'd really like to get you." Okay. Excuse me?
What are we...
Nobody was stopping Obama from doing the right thing other than his fear of the labor union bosses.
Is there a SOP as part of this deal to the labor unions?
Oh, yes, you're quite right. And Obama is demanding $1 billion a year be put aside for trade adjustment, which is basically money handed over largely to labor unions. And when you have free trade, more jobs are created. But they want to argue that, well, what if somebody moves from one job to another?
Right.
We should have a job retraining program. It's like several years of job training. One of the things that we do know from history that the United States government cannot do is run job training programs. And there are dozens of them. They don't work very well. But I guess it's a little bit of a political payoff to the labor unions in order to get them to drop their... But that's, the public financing of legislation. An additional $1 billion. We already spent $1 billion to have bought previous trade agreements, permission from organized labor. But I think it's unfortunate that tax dollars are used to pay special interest groups, not to get in the way of job creation.
Grover, before we let you go, Congressman Frank Wolf, Republican from Northern Virginia, right here in our backyard, had some tough words for you yesterday, saying that there's a list of unsavory people who you're tied to, talking about Jack Abramoff, Fannie Mae, lobbying on behalf of Fannie Mae, or wanting to close down Gitmo, and a Hamas supporter, and said basically that you are using the ATR pledge as leverage to advance other issues that most Americans wouldn't like. Your response to Congressman Wolf's comments on you yesterday?
No, it was unfortunate. Congressman Wolf has endorsed a $2 trillion tax increase in the Simpson-Bowles plan. He has not taken the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. He is one of 6 Republicans in Congress who's not taken the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. And 2 years ago, he lobbied me to support a bill that he had, which would have set up a Simpson-Bowles commission and guaranteed massive tax increases. And, of course, I opposed that actively. He screamed at other congressmen, you won't support my tax increase plan because of the pledge. And so we have a disagreement. He thinks we need to raise taxes, and I certainly disagree with that.
Well, he says he doesn't want to, but you're saying because he's on board with the Simpson-Bowles Act, then that is essentially a tax increase.
In the same speech, he said he supported it, the Simpson-Bowles, which Paul Ryan scores as a $2 trillion tax increase. So he's not speaking accurately when he says that. And he's also been fighting for some time to have the door open to tax increases. The personal attacks were silly and unfortunate, and as the Bush administration said, this is all 10-year-old garbage. And the Bush administration and Karl Rove said there's no there to it. The American Conservative Union board unanimously voted to condemn that kind of nonsense, and it's unfortunate. Right. But at the end of the day, look, what's important is the modern Republican Party will not raise taxes, period.
Gotcha.
Wolf is not part of that consensus, and it makes him grumpy. But at the end of the day, he's one guy, and 235 Republicans are committed in writing, not to me, which is another thing that the congressman misspoke,
right.
Okay, but to their voters and to their constituents. Right. They said, we're not raising taxes. Wolf has not made that commitment and fights on the other side of that battle.
All right, good enough. We'll leave it there.
One guy.
Thank you, Grover, as always. Appreciate it.
Yep.